All right, Hop Nation, this is your commissioner here, and Back in the Box Productions brings to you the Week 4 preview show for Hop Football 2025. I apologize for the lateness. It has been an extraordinary couple of days, and so I'm actually recording this on Saturday night. And remember, there's a 9 o'clock game tomorrow morning. So getting this preview over to you a little late, but wanted to make sure I at least provided one. As always, gentlemen, I will start in my own matchup. And this week has the 3-0 Goodfellas taking on the 1-2 Hops Chop Block and our rookie sensation, Eddie Cook. Now, because this is Saturday, we've obviously had the Thursday night game already been played. So these predictions, if you will, or this preview will take into account the Thursday night action that's already taken place. And the other thing is also keep in mind, my normal disclosure is that lineups are always subject to change. So until they're changed, we'll just go with what we got. So on the Goodfellas side, I did roll out Kenneth Walker on the Thursday night game, perhaps against my better judgment. He did put up 12 points, so it wasn't the worst outing in the world, but that still is a frustrating scenario between him and Charbonnet. But in any event, taking a look at the rest of the lineup as currently constituted, again, subject to change. I'm going to roll out Caleb Williams at quarterback. Most likely I'm not going to change that at all. They're playing Vegas at 4 o'clock, so I like the matchup there. And I think Caleb has been playing well, and he's definitely on the way up in terms of trajectory. So I actually feel pretty good about that. Again, already played Kenneth Walker. Right now I have Dave Montgomery in as the other starting running back. May rethink that because they are playing Cleveland. We know Cleveland's defense is top-notch. And Monty is still in that timeshare, and right now he's not getting as many carries as Gibbs. So I'm not quite sure, but as of now, he is in the starting lineup unless I decide to make a change. So I don't love that matchup. On the receiver side, right now, it looks like I'm going to go Drake London and T-Mac, Teterow and McMillan. Both of these players have been doing well in terms of the targets, but the results haven't quite been there. London and Atlanta take on Washington. And, I mean, Atlanta has to do better than they did last week. So we'll look to see what Penix does this week. And on top of that, will they have a short leash on Penix and bring in Kirk Cousins if he struggles? And then T-Mac had a bit of a calf injury this week. I've been monitoring all week. He was questionable going into the game. They are playing New England. But if he plays, I'm going to roll him out there. I just love the player, and I think that he's been doing really, really well as a rookie. A lot of targets. Targets are opportunities. That's what you want in fantasy. On the tight end side, Travis Kelce, going to continue to roll him out there, it looks like, at this point, versus Baltimore. Baltimore's going to be pissed, but it is a short week as well. Baltimore's going to be pissed after their loss to Detroit on Monday. So I'm hoping that Kelce can, put in a good game. Currently in the flex, a couple of players I'm excited about. I currently have Mr. CMC, Christian McCaffrey, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looks to be RB1 pretty much every week at this point. And again, he's been doing all that without getting any rushing touchdowns. And so if you can throw that into the mix, who knows? He could have a monster day. And they are playing Jacksonville in the 4 o'clock slot. And then you have Keenan Allen, who's been basically acting as the number 1A receiver for the Chargers, turning back the clock against the Giants. So that's pretty much what you have in terms of skill position. Again, I'm not going to get into defense, kicker, head coach. And then we'll move over to Eddie's side. Eddie, right now, it's funny, if you look at Eddie's lineup, every single player in Eddie's lineup does not play. Not one of them plays at 1 o'clock on Sunday, the typical slot. He has a bunch of Monday night guys going, which, again, second week in a row for me. Right now he has Bo Nix going against Cincinnati on Monday night. Running back, you have Josh Jacobs and Jace Brown, Sunday night and Monday night. I love Jacobs' matchup versus Dallas. That is something I'm very worried about. Dallas defense has been terrible. Jacobs is coming off a bad game. That is a recipe for a monster game. And so I'm going to have to weather that storm, I think. Chase Brown versus a really good Denver defense. Cincinnati not looking good, so we'll see. Receiver-wise, Mr. Justin Jefferson playing tomorrow morning at 9:30 versus Pittsburgh. And then, of course, Ricky Pearsall for the Niners, 4 o'clock versus Jacksonville. With the return of Brock Purdy. So that should be a good thing for Pearsall. Tucker Kraft, again, going to double dip in on Green Bay for the Sunday night game. Tucker Kraft looks to see if he can bounce back after an injury-riddled week last week where he didn't really perform. On the flex side, Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy. Sutton, Monday night against Cincinnati. Again, that's a nice spot. That's a nice primetime spot. Xavier Worthy coming off the injury. Should be interesting to see how much time he gets. But he should definitely be a shot in the arm for Kansas City for sure. So when you add it all up, here's where we're at. The current projections, again, I don't give a lot of stock to those, but the current projections have me in a 5-point victory over Eddie. And that is considering the Kenneth Walker game already in the books. I'm going to tell you my prediction. This might surprise you. I have a feeling I'm going to take a loss this week. The main reason is that there's still uncertainty for me with the Montgomery move. T-Mac's been playing a little injured. I need a few guys to start playing better than they have been, despite the fact that I'm 3-0. I need a couple guys to be playing better, and until I see it, I'm not overly comfortable and whether or not this is going to be the week. And when I look at Eddie's side, Eddie has primetime players in terms of when they're playing this week, which I like. He has a couple of really choice matchups. The Josh Jacobs matchup and the Cortland Sutton matchup in particular make me nervous, and I feel like either one of those guys is capable of putting up monster points. So again, I love my team, of course, but still dealing with injuries with Jaden Daniels, still dealing with some uncertainty in terms of a couple of committee backfields. And at the end of the day, right now, I just have a weird feeling about this week. Could I win? Of course I could. Of course I could. There's some dangerous players on here. And, at the end of the day, Eddie has 1-2, and his team has rather underperformed in the first few weeks with some lower scores. So could it happen? Yes. I just feel, looking at the trajectory of the players, none of the superstars are really going to struggle all year long. And I just have a feeling he's in a couple of spots here where you're going to see some big, big performances. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Goodfellas take the loss this week and Eddie gets an improbable win to go to 2-2. And honestly, that's my prediction. Certainly hope I'm wrong, of course. I would love to stay undefeated, but that's where I feel like I'm at right now. So good luck, Eddie, and let's move on. We have the champ taking on the Southpaw. So we have formerly the Chosen Ones, Chris Bernard, taking on the Southpaw, both coming into game 1 and 2. On the Southpaw side, he rolled out Trey McBride on Thursday night and got himself 12 points in the process. And let's look at the rest of his lineup this week. Baker Mayfield has been injured all week, is going in with a questionable tag, but it looks like he is going to play. And the guy's a warrior, capable of putting up big points. They are playing a tough defense in Philadelphia, but it's still, a good offense. No Mike Evans this week, but you do get Chris Godwin back. In the running back side, newly acquired Bucky Irving, because Craig actually traded away Bijan Robinson this week, which we didn't really touch on. But in return, he got Bucky Irving. So he's going to roll out Omarion Hampton and Bucky Irving. Hampton is an exciting player at this point, even though he hasn't played great this year. He has no more Najee Harris waiting in the wings, who's now injured and out for the year. And it looks like it might be Hampton's time. And remember, the Chargers were always slated to be a running team. And maybe they start to take on more of that identity against Big Blue. So you have Hampton and Irving at the running back. In the receiver spot, you have Brian Thomas and DJ Moore. Thomas has had a horrendous year. Is this the week he gets off the schneid? Possibly. Against San Francisco in a banged-up defense. Remember, San Fran lost Bosa for the year. DJ Moore, again, he was considered to be the number 1 in Chicago. I think he's relegated to number 2 at this point, but he's still a player that they play all over the field, and I could see there being some points in that game for sure. Flex, Tony Pollard and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is another newly acquired piece. Came up with an injury this week. Going into the game is questionable, I believe. And of course, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has been one of the biggest, the most active running backs in football this year. It hasn't translated into huge numbers, but opportunity is where it's at, and Pollard gets plenty of it. Warren does play at 9:30 in the morning, so I think he's going to play. But if he doesn't, Craig has time to make a change. So that's on the Craig Roloff side. On Chris's side, he has Lamar Jackson going against Kansas City at 4 o'clock. Kansas City is still a tough defense, so not an easy matchup, and it is on the road. Derrick Henry has had one amazing game and two, frankly, crap games. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get off the schneid and put up a big one versus Kansas City. It's not a great spot, but you have to think after losing 3 fumbles in the first 3 games of the season, you have to think that he's looking to do something to make a statement this week. So it bears watching. Javonte Williams, keep a close eye, guys. Javonte Williams is starting to fall off a tiny bit. We'll see. And they're playing Green Bay. Now, it is a primetime Sunday night game. Green Bay is licking its wounds a little bit after a tough Browns loss last week. But we'll see. We'll see if Javonte can bounce back and have a nice effort against a really, really tough defense, no matter how you slice it. And, by the way, a motivated Micah Parsons against Dallas. On the receiver side, exciting for Chris. He's got Nico Collins, who's been playing out of his mind despite playing on a really bad team. And then you have Emeka Egbuka, who's been a real nice rookie sensation. And now, no Mike Evans and Chris Godwin coming back after being out for like a year. So Egbuka's like the number 1 right now. Should be interesting to see how the dynamic changes, though, with no Evans and Godwin in there. Like, it's going to change. Tampa might take a little while to kind of get themselves back into a rhythm. But he's got the right receiver. This guy's got a bright future, in my opinion. Tyler Warren, tight end for the upstart Indianapolis Colts. Still playing well. The offense is still running through him. Of course, you have Jordan Mason and the Vikings tomorrow morning taking on Pittsburgh. Mason gets another shot at being, the guy. And he certainly delivered last week with a couple of scores and a big point total. And we saw what he could do last year with San Francisco. So we'll see. I'm hearing some rumblings, though, about Minnesota and potentially bringing in another back. I'm going to keep that one to myself because that could shake up some things, and I'm not going to pass along that information. But we'll see how much more time Mason has as the guy, and we'll see if what I'm hearing comes to fruition. More on that another time. And then, of course, Trey Tucker off like a ridiculous wide receiver 1 outing last week, like 3 touchdowns and just absurd numbers. Chris is going to try to capitalize off the momentum against Chicago in what, frankly, could be a high-scoring game. I'm not 100% sure on Tucker. Tucker, I've taken chances with him before because he's shown flashes before. It's just a matter of whether or not he can be consistent with it, and we'll see if he takes another step towards that this weekend. Anyway, when you add it all up on the preview side, the projection side, you have, and again, ESPN is accounting for the Thursday night action for Craig. ESPN has this as a very close 2.5 point victory for Craig. And as I look at this, I'm going to tell you that, in my opinion, I think Chris gets the victory here. I think Chris has, yes, a couple of difficult matchups with the Kansas Cities and the Green Bays of the world against some big players, but he has a couple of other players that I think have a shot here to put. It's a strong lineup. It's a strong lineup, and I think that there's some, even in the tougher matchups, I still see those guys having some success. And again, on Craig's side, again, a very, very good lineup as well, and some exciting players there. I just have a gut feeling that Chris is going to pull out the victory in a close one this week. So we'll see. Good luck, gentlemen. Whoever does win is going to pull a 2-2, and that's a nice spot to be after 4 weeks. So I wish you both lots of luck, and we'll see how it plays out. Next, moving on to the Polish Powers, taking on Art Shop, Arrow versus Matt. Both of them had some Thursday night action. We'll start on Errol's side of the ledger. Errol, after losing Mr. James Conner, was properly handcuffed with Trey Benson. And I think we all thought Benson was going to be like the workhorse number one, like one of the really sought after, coveted pieces. And he may really well just be that. But the Cardinals just don't appear to be a really good team. So Benson only put up 10 points in his first night as the RB1 for Arizona. Better days to come, probably. But only 10 points on the Thursday night tilt. So I will stay with Errol's team for a moment. We got Patrick Mahomes coming in against Baltimore. Again, Patrick Mahomes, the same thing. Great NFL quarterback, not a great fantasy quarterback. But Mahomes is getting Worthy back. So maybe that does some things for him. And they start, also they're struggling in the running game. So perhaps they start to air it out a little bit, and Baltimore has shown that they can be scored upon. So maybe it's a good game this week. We'll see. Jonathan Taylor is freaking hot, man. He just had a great game last week. The Colts are playing. Are the Colts, to use Chris's line, the team of destiny this year? We'll see. Taylor taking on the Rams in a tough defense, but Taylor's been playing lights out. James Cook versus New Orleans. Here's the one thing with this game. If you look, Buffalo is like a 16-point favorite over New Orleans. And anytime you see a number like that, one of the things to, you can't bench your guys, but at the same time, you wonder, you temper expectations a little bit, because what if they do get a big lead and just call off the dogs because it really is that much of a beatdown and you guys end up sitting by halftime? It's within the realm of possibilities. So we'll see. On the flip side, I'm less worried about that with a running back, because typically when you get up big, it means you stop throwing and you continue to run. But we'll see what happens with Cook. It's an interesting game in that it really could get out of hand pretty quickly. But not much to worry about playing against New Orleans in terms of stout defense. On the receiver side, Devontae Adams and Quentin Johnston playing for the Rams and the Chargers respectively. And Johnston's been having a really nice season. He's a little bit boomer bust in terms of, it's not like he's getting a million, targets and a lot of catches in the middle of the field. Like, he's the home run guy. It's just that they've been having success there because Herbert's such a good quarterback. So we'll see if he can continue against the Giants tomorrow afternoon. We'll see. He's been playing really well. And Devontae Adams, again with the Rams, playing against a tough Indy team, could be a good game, should be a good game. So we'll see how that game plays out. Hawkinson had a nice week last week for Minnesota. They do play tomorrow morning versus Pittsburgh. So we'll see if Hawk can but follow up on another strong game. On the flex, Ramondre Stevenson. By the way, Errol, I can say this since it's already done. Just a word of caution. Generally speaking, in fantasy, you probably know this, you never want to play your flex guys on a Thursday night. It's just something to keep in mind. Little word of advice. You want to keep your flex open, because you never know what can happen from Thursday to Sunday. And if one of your guys that's in a position gets injured, it's better that he be in the flex so you can replace him with anybody. But anyway, that's just a little side note. Ramondre Stevenson been playing pretty well for New England versus Carolina. And I almost feel like he's playing with some urgency to not get taken over. He wants to keep the job. And so I almost feel like he's playing with some urgency to hold off Travion. So we'll see how that game goes. Against Carolina's not really a scary team. So we'll see. But although they are coming off a big win from last week. Okay, moving over to Matt. Matt had Smith and Jigba on Thursday night versus Arizona. A little bit of a disappointing effort, 13 points. Was not heavily targeted in the beginning of the game. Got some runs. But you expect more from the number one, and he has been playing lights out this year. So he's no one to worry about, just not a great Thursday night outing. Looking at it, Matt has Herbert going, who again has been playing really, really well. Again, the thing to watch, though, I wonder if the Chargers are going to start reverting back to a little bit more of what their DNA is and getting a little more running going. Hampton's in there. They like him. We'll see. But Herbert's been playing really, really well. And see no reason why that shouldn't continue versus not a great Giants team. A running back, Ashton Jeanty, Kyron Williams. Jeanty has struggled this year, but we'll see if he can start to pick it up. They're saying all the right things in Vegas, about just sort of limiting him a little bit to make sure he doesn't grind down. His physical talent is obvious and apparent. So we'll see versus a really bad Chicago defense if he can get off the schneid this week. And then Kyron Williams is, playing well with the Rams. Should be a fun game, Rams versus Indy. On the receiver side, Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, a couple New York receivers. Neighbors should come back with a good game, I think, this week. The question mark there, of course, is the Giants have made a quarterback change. Now you have Dart in there. And I think most people think that that's going to be an upgrade for the offense. My question is will that, I agree. My question is will that happen right away? But if you're a new quarterback going in, who are you going to look for? You're going to look for the alpha dog. And the alpha dog is Malik Neighbors. And I think he wants to show or bounce back from a really poor effort last week. And I expect him to do that this week versus the Chargers. Garrett Wilson playing Monday night versus Miami. I hear Justin Fields is back this week. It is a primetime game. But again, the Jets don't really look very good right now. So we'll see. But Garrett Wilson is still the guy that you want if you're looking for a pass catcher for the Jets. Again, going Kyle Pitts. The Kyle Pitts experiment continues versus Washington. Not much to say there. We'll see if Atlanta can look better than the ass whipping they took last week. And then he has Chuba Hubbard in the other flex spot over Njigba. By the way, Matt, same thing to you. Thursday night guys on flex. That's rookie move right there. So anyway, Chuba Hubbard he has going against New England. And there you have it. Chuba's been playing well. I think that game will be a little closer to the vest than the 30-0 win from last week that Carolina had. And Chuba's not a bad guy to have there. So anyway, when you look at the ESPN projections, ESPN projects this as a 10-point victory for Matt and R Chop. And just looking over the matchups, who's playing who and where, I tend to agree. I think Matt's going to get the victory here. I think he's going to have some bounce-back performances from some guys who struggled last week. And I think that coming off of a loss from last week, Matt's going to bounce back and pick up a victory. So that's my guess based on the way this looks right now. All right, moving on. We go to the next matchup. And that matchup is Morrow's Vikings coming in at 0-3, taking on an undefeated Rick Penner and the Polar Bears. So, when we take a look at this, Morrow had nobody on Thursday night. Rick had Cooper Kupp and Cardinals defense and ended up with only 6 points from Cooper Kupp. I told you, he's done. He's just done. And then you had 8 points from the Cardinals defense. So not a great Thursday night showing, but let's stay with the Polar Bears and see what we have here. Josh Allen playing New Orleans. Again, you heard me say this before with Cook. The thing is that Buffalo is so much better than New Orleans, and it's like a 16-point line. It could be even more at this point. And so you wonder, how much is Allen going to have to do? It's the one caveat here is that we play in fantasy football. We want the points. We want a competitive game. We want someone that has to keep throwing. He might be sitting by halftime. Now, if he's sitting by halftime because he threw 5 touchdowns in the first half, you don't much mind that. But it's just interesting to see how that's going to play out. So we'll see. Jahmyr Gibbs, again, he is the running back to have for Detroit. However, they are playing a very, very tough Cleveland defense. And they're coming off of a huge victory this past Monday night. We'll see. They're home. They're in Detroit, and that always bodes well for Detroit. They play better there. So we'll see if Gibbs can have some success. The one good thing about him is he's a dual threat. He can catch the ball out of the backfield and run, and so you can neutralize Cleveland a little bit that way if you use him right. And you also have Travis Etienne playing against San Francisco. Etienne's funny because no one knew if he was going to be the starter. Then he got RB1 status, and now his playing time's dipping a little bit. And he is playing a tough San Francisco defense minus Joey Bosa, of course. So we'll see what Etienne does. Not the greatest matchup for him. On the receiver side, we already played Kupp. Now, Deebo Samuel is your other guy. Deebo's in a great spot here. Even though Jaden Daniels is sitting again this week, there's no McLaurin this week. That makes Deebo the guy. And the thing about Deebo being the guy is you can put him anywhere, and he can do a lot of damage from anywhere. So I like Deebo to have a good week this week. Marcus Mariota is a serviceable quarterback, and it just feels very kind of gadget-like, and Deebo can do a lot of damage in that kind of a game. Brock Bowers at the tight end, playing Chicago. Again, I think that game could be somewhat high scoring, and look for Bowers to get off the schneid. He's been dealing with a little bit of a knee injury, and it's been hampering his success a little bit from what I can tell. On the receiver side, right now he has Rome Odunze. Same traffic. Las Vegas, Chicago could be a high scoring game, and Odunze's had a phenomenal season, really coming into his own, playing as the de facto number one in Chicago. And then you have Troy Franklin, who's been coming along with Denver. And perhaps he's taken over as the number two over Marvin Mims. I'm not sure. But they're playing Cincinnati, which is a struggling team in shambles, on a nice Monday night spot. And so I could see him having a decent game for sure. On Morrow's side, now, Morrow did something here that, first of all, kudos for getting a trade done with Morrow, because his trade proposals are interesting to say the least. But Morrow saw that he was 0-3 and needed to make a move, and he did. He made a huge splash, traded away a bunch of talent, got back Bijan Robinson, who can win you a game any week, and now he throws out Bijan Robinson and Jamar Chase in his starting lineup every week. Now, granted, you don't get a Bijan because everything's going great, right? So he's been playing really well, but Atlanta hasn't been playing really well. So maybe that's hampering him a little bit. Also, tough to get excited about Jamar Chase without Joe Burrow being there for the rest of the year. You know, I venture to think that if Burrow wasn't injured, Chase would be playing better. Morrow might not be 0-3, and maybe that trade wouldn't have happened. But nonetheless, the trade was done, and here's what he's got going this week. Jalen Hurts versus Tampa. I think Philadelphia might have gotten a little bit more of their passing identity back, because last week they had to resort to it to make a comeback against the Rams, and they did it really well. That bodes well for the Hurts to A.J. Brown connection. And if that gets going on top of everything else that Morrow has going for it, this 0-3 team could be one that you don't want to see. So Jalen Hurts against Tampa. On the running back side, Alvin Kamara and the newly acquired Bijan Robinson. Again, we know what Kamara can do, but pay attention to what's going on in New Orleans right now. That's all I'm going to say. And if you have any questions about that, you can talk to me on the side. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we'll see what Alvin Kamara does in what could potentially be a blowout with Buffalo. And then Bijan Robinson, of course, we already spoke about him. Atlanta hasn't been playing well, but Bijan really, he just looks good. He looks good, and he's capable of taking it the distance anytime. Jamar Chase, again, who knows? You know, I don't know what he's going to be this year. I don't know what to expect with Cincinnati. I tend to think that they'll be okay. Browning is not a bad quarterback. He just hasn't played well yet. So that's on a Monday night versus Denver. Tough defense, tough spot. So we'll see how that goes. A.J. Brown, I mentioned. Again, if he can stay consistent and Hurts can find him, that could be a nice connection for Morrow. Mark Andrews. He plays him, does nothing. Then he plays him and plays him, does nothing. Then benches him, and Andrews goes off. Now he's back in his starting lineup. What's he going to do? Here's the deal, Baltimore and Morrow and everybody else. Isaiah Likely, I think, is back now. So I think we'll start to see what's really going to happen. I still think Andrews is done. That's my opinion. And then in the flex, Jalen Waddle and George Pickens. Again, Waddle playing against the Jets on a Monday night is capable of doing some things. Miami seems to be a mess right now, but it's still the NFL. They're still professionals, and he could come back and do some things that might surprise you. And then you have Pickens, who's going to be playing as the number one with no CeeDee Lamb for the next few weeks, again against a really tough Green Bay defense, but it is on Sunday night, and we'll see what he can do as far as that's concerned. So when I look at the projections here, based off of the Thursday night action that's already taken place, I see Morrow is favored by ESPN by basically 9 points. primarily because the Thursday night action didn't work out well for Rick. I'm going to say that I think Morrow gets the win here. Morrow's got some nice players. He made a nice trade that sort of really rounded out the lineup. He might have a little struggles during the bye weeks or whatever, but I just think that looking at the lineups and the matchups and the Thursday night issues that Rick had, I'm going to think Morrow gets off the schneid here and gets his victory. So that's my thought process, and it just goes to show you could be 0-3, and if things start to break your way, you can still do big things in this league. So good luck to you both, gentlemen. Moving on to the last matchup of the week, and we have the Brooklyn Baller taking on Scooters Boys. There was no Thursday night action for either one of these, so let's just take a look at who they have going as of now. Brooklyn Baller, Jared Goff. So, again, and this is going to sound like a broken record. Here's the deal with Detroit. He's got all the Detroit players, or a whole bunch of Detroit players. And when the matchup is right and everything else, I love it. They're playing Cleveland, and we saw what Cleveland did to Green Bay. Now, do I think Cleveland can completely shut down Detroit? No, I think Detroit's offense is better than Green Bay. But do I want my team playing against what is like one of the best defenses in the NFL if I have all my eggs in that basket? No, I really don't. The good thing here for Goff and the Lions is that they are playing in Detroit. They're a much better home team, and Goff is a really good quarterback at home. So they are playing Cleveland. Running backs Breece Hall and J.K. Dobbins. Listen, we know the struggles that Hall has had. Miami's a mess, though. Maybe this is a get-right game for the Jets. We'll see. Dobbins has been playing really well. And, again, versus a team that's just a mess right now with Cincinnati, I could see him having a really nice game on the Monday Nighter. Love the prime time. Receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, versus Cleveland. Puka Nacua, who's been playing lights out, has been the number one receiver in football, and should be in a nice competitive game with Indy. And I see no reason why he would slow down. Puka's been a real nice player so far. Sam Laporta versus Cleveland. Jameson Williams versus Cleveland. Zay Flowers versus Kansas City. Another tough defense, but I think they're going to look to get Zay a little more involved in this game. He didn't play very well last week. Not to say he didn't play well. He wasn't targeted. He wasn't as much part of the game plan. And so we'll see. So that's what we're looking at on the Brooklyn Baller side. On Scooters Boys side, it looks to be the return of Brock Purdy. As a 49er fan, I'm very excited about that. Want to see the guy come back. Mac Jones did not do half bad, but I want Purdy back in there. Isn't that wild? I feel pretty comfortable with him. Running back, Saquon Barkley versus Tampa. A-Chain versus the Jets. A-Chain's been somewhat matchup proof despite the fact that the Miami's been such a train wreck. And so I could see him having a nice game on a prime time Monday Nighter versus the Jets. Saquon, again, he's going to be fine. He's not going to do what he did last year, but he's going to be fine. It's just a matter of how that mix is between run and pass for Philadelphia now. But honestly, a better pass game is going to be good for Saquon anyway. McConkey and Myers as the receivers. McConkey has been struggling as of late. I think to find his place in the offense because the Chargers have been playing well. Herbert's been playing well, but he's been relying on a couple of the bigger receivers. And so McConkey hasn't had as good of a campaign as relative to where he was drafted. And Jacoby Myers, again, versus Chicago could be a good spot for him. And, expect some points to be scored in that game. Tight end, Ferguson versus Green Bay. Tough defense, but no CeeDee Lamb. Ferguson coming off a monster game where he was targeted a million times. Let's see if he can keep up the momentum. On the flex side, DeAndre Swift versus Vegas. Tyreek Hill versus the Jets. Couple of potential home run guys there, particularly with Swift in a good spot versus Vegas. Tyreek Hill, I just don't know what to make of Miami. They're just such a unusual team right now. You almost feel like they have to get it going though, because if they don't, I feel like they just might tear it all down. And who knows where people end up in that if that happens. So, in any event, when you take a look at the tail of the tape, or the projections, if you will, by ESPN, ESPN predicts a Rick Erdlin 3-point victory. And I'm going to agree with that. And the main reason I'm going to agree with it is this. Again, both of these teams have very dangerous players. I'm looking at it strictly as a matchup thing, though. I really don't like the whole Detroit thing. Playing against Cleveland makes me nervous. Cleveland is a disruptive defense, and I can just see it being a little smash mouth. I think Detroit's better than them, but I thought Green Bay was better than Cleveland too, and Cleveland beat them. So we'll see. But based purely on matchups and everything, I think there'll be some points scored in this game. I think Scooters Boys gets the win in a close one. And that's just the way that I'm seeing it. Obviously, things can change, lineups can change, but that's the way I'm seeing it based off of the way it is now. So anyway, this preview was a lot longer than I expected. Hope you all enjoy it. Remember to set your lineups, especially for the Sunday morning game. And good luck to all you. And we'll see you for a Monday night preview after tomorrow's action. Take it easy, gents. Commish out.